In this episode of Brainpower, we're going to explore GPT Vision. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Hello, friends. It's Josh. Welcome to another episode of Brainpower. Today, we are going to explore GPT-4 Vision, which is really exciting capability baked into ChatGPT. And as a learning and designer professional, um, it's really critical for you, especially at this juncture, to go out and explore all kinds of different technologies that could impact your workflow. And I believe that GPT-4 with Vision is going to do that. So today we're going to walk through a few examples and check out the capabilities of GPT-4 with Vision capabilities. But before I do that, I want to go in and give you a little bit of background as far as the technology. So I have a few slides to go through just to talk about GPT-4 Vision. And first, as far as computer vision, it's been around for a while. Going back to the 1960s, we first start seeing the ability of computers to identify simple objects and boundaries of objects. And in the 70s and 80s, we saw that technology applied to manufacturing, especially on assembly lines, that kind of thing where optics was really critical. Also, in the banking industry, when you write a check, and not too many people write checks anymore, but there is a string of numbers on the bottom of your check, and that is called a microline. And object character recognition is used to identify those numbers. So yeah, computer vision has been around for a while, but now we have the ability to access it through GPT-4. Okay, well, where are things headed with computer vision? It is amazing. And, in the headlines, we typically hear about autonomous vehicles and computer vision used to see the direction of the vehicle and it should stop, or, if there's something it should avoid. So, again, computer vision is front and center in our lives. And I believe it's going to be a big part in what we do day in and day out as far as navigating artificial intelligence and what we could do with it. So, in our lives, I mentioned already the micro line, but where else is computer vision in play? Well, all throughout COVID, QR codes, right? I mean, you would take your phone out, take a picture of a QR code to read a menu, and that utilizes computer vision. Now, it was simple. I mean, it just translates into a URL that would then download a menu for you. But yet it's using the optics in your camera to go in and determine the URL based on the QR code. Pretty cool. Also, home security, right? So many more people now have home security systems with motion detection in the sensor or in the camera. It's on our phones. So if you use Google Lens or Apple Visual Lookup, that is computer vision. And for many of us throughout our day, if we need help identifying a flower, a plant, an animal, a product, something of the sort, we can just simply utilize our phone, and through computer vision, that product or that animal or that plant, the description of it comes up on our phones. Pretty spectacular, actually, that all that works. So yes, it's a part of our lives, but now we can go in and use it inside of ChatGPT. So what is possible? So the first thing that's possible is something that's called visual question answering. And this is when we can ask ChatGPT an open question about the image, like what's in the image, how many items are in there, and that kind of thing. Optical character recognition, or OCR. Again, it's been around for a long time, but let me tell you, the ability in ChatGPT or GPT-4, absolutely amazing. And you're going to see that here in a moment. And finally, just object detection. What's in the image? How many elements are there? What are the proximity between multiple items? That kind of thing. So it's pretty spectacular what it can do. All right. So let's go ahead and let's just jump right on into ChatGPT. And I'm going to walk through these examples with you. And for the first one, I love this example, a whiteboard. I mean, how many of us go into meetings? And I know that sometimes now it's virtual, right? But you're in a jam session, you have all kinds of great information up on the board, and most people end up taking their phones out and taking a picture of that whiteboard. But what are you supposed to do with it after that, right? I mean, you can transcribe notes from it, but now we can use GPT-4 to help us out and transcribe information from that whiteboard. So in this first example, what I'm going to do is go down and click on the little paperclip down here. This allows us to upload an image. Now, before I do that, I just want to give you a few nuances about getting an image into ChatGPT. First, you could use the paperclip, that's fine, but you can also copy and paste. So if you have an image in the clipboard, you can simply go into the message window in here and paste it into the message box. That's pretty cool. Also, you can upload multiple images, and I do have an example of that coming up. And finally, you're limited to images 20 megs or less. So if you have a large image that you have taken maybe from your camera, be careful. It may not accept it. You may have to go ahead and down resolution that image. All right. Okay, let's get to this whiteboard example. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the paperclip, and I have these images up on my desktop here. And so the first one is going to be this whiteboard. So let's go ahead and grab this whiteboard. So I have the whiteboard image in here. And now I already have these prompts set up and ready to rock. So just as a reminder, if you want to go in and you want to download these prompts, you can just go to joshcavalier.com/brainpower, and that is going to show you all the episodes that are up there. And so, you can just go ahead and click on one of the episodes. Again, this is being recorded, and that will take you to the episode, and you can click on the files. Now, I'm in the process of uploading these files. The page is done, so just bear with me, okay? So if they're not up there, you may have to go ahead and use your own image and prompt, but guaranteed, all of these examples will be up there. Not so much the images, but the prompts because of copyright. So anyways, there you go. If you need help with those files, they're right there at joshcavalier.com/brainpower. Right, back to our whiteboard. So describe the information on this whiteboard in detail. Let's see what it does. So the image is then uploaded, and now we're going to go ahead and we're going to ask ChatGPT to go in and explain for us what's happening here. Now, this is a system or a internet connection, and we can see all the different elements here of a router, the internet, the Wi-Fi, firewall, server, the hub. And you can see that it's very detailed about each of these elements and what they represent. Not too shabby, huh? That's pretty wild. So, the reason why this works so well is that in the image, everything is very clearly defined. There's not really any kind of chicken scratch in here as far as the text. The images or the little drawings are extremely clear, and that's extremely helpful for GPT-4 Vision when it analyzes the image. Thus, we get a really really good result. So now maybe you're going to go ahead and approach your in-person meetings a little bit different, having the confidence that you can take a picture of that whiteboard and have it analyzed. Keep in mind that you cannot upload anything with intellectual property of your company if you're using GPT-4 Plus account, right? So if you have the free account, if you have the Plus account, do not upload any IP information. For the team account in enterprise, that is secure. So, and the model's not being trained on those images. So just go ahead and keep that in mind as you move forward. All right, next example. So one of the other things that we have to do as learning and development professionals is make our courses accessible. Now, unfortunately, this is somewhat time consuming, but it is necessary. And one of those tasks is creating alt text for images that is read by a screen reader. Now, wouldn't it be nice if ChatGPT could go ahead and write that alt text for us and save us some time? Of course it would be. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at an example. Now, I'm going to go and create a brand new chat here, and I'll be doing that for most of these because I don't want to continue a chat. And so let's go ahead and let's grab another image here. And in my examples, I'm going to go into the alt text, and we have a little accident, little OSHA incident here, and we need a description of this. Essentially, what's happening is this gentleman got his foot crushed by a pipe, unfortunately. But let's go ahead and take a look at this prompt. And I have a little bit of role in here. You are an accessibility expert. Examine this image and generate its associated alt text. Now I have some nuances in here. Be specific, be succinct, and limit the description to 125 characters. Now, with some screen readers, there is a limitation. It just really depends. Sometimes you want to be more descriptive. It depends upon the image. In this case, I want to go ahead and try and see if I can do a character limit. All right. So let's go in and send the message here. There we go. That's pretty good. A concerned female worker looks at a fallen male colleague on the factory floor. Excellent. Well, I mean, that's pretty succinct. Now, if you want, you can go ahead and ask it to give you another version. So, like, try again if you want. And let's see if it varies this at all. All right, so we got another version of the alt text that you can use. So again, saving you a little bit of time here. You can upload multiple images and get alt text for those if you want. So you can go ahead and try that technique. Now, there are inherently some limitations inside, ChatGPT with vision technology. For instance, English characters or Latin characters, really easy for it to parse out. But when you're talking about Japanese or Korean characters, not so much. All right. Also, very small characters or characters that are not so legible. Again, it's difficult for GPT-4 Vision to parse that information. Now, we're going to do a little experiment here with counting. Now, we know that a large language model is not so good with math, but we're going to test GPT-4 Vision here. I'm also going to modify my prompt and adjust it to see if I can coax ChatGPT to give me the correct answer. All right, and so we're going to do a little counting exercise. So I'm going to create a brand new chat, and for this particular exercise, I'm going to grab a picture of some apples. Now, there's currently 8 apples and 1 red one in the middle. And I'm just going to go ahead and ask it to count the number of apples in this image. Let's see what it does here. Well, that is incorrect. It says there's 9 apples in the image, 8 green and 1 red. It sees the red one, but there are actually 7 green apples. So let's try this again. And I'm going to modify my prompt and say, count the number of apples in this image. Let's think step by step. So think step by step is a prompting technique that slows ChatGPT down and has it go through each iteration of the process of counting, right? So let's see if we can actually get our 8 apples here. So now it's actually going in and doing some analysis. I don't know if this is going to help it or not. While it's doing that, I want to go ahead and share with you, and let's see what it does here. It's going to town as far as its processing. So it's actually running some type of algorithm in the background to actually get this. And it's pausing. Now, let me go in and just show you. And I'm just going to bring my prompts over here while it's doing some work. And so here, right in this counting example right here, the next prompt would be to go in and count the number of apples. Let's count the apples row by row. So we're getting more detailed in the prompt. Count the number of apples in the image. First, count how many rows of apples there are, and then count the apples in each row. And finally, sum them up to get the total. So now you can see the prompt is expanding. The final one, based upon testing by OpenAI, is the one that really works. You are an expert in counting things in this image. Let's count the number of apples in the image below, row by row, to be sure we have the right answer. So just keep in mind when you're using GPT-4 Vision that the modification of your prompt does impact the results coming back, right? So let's see what it's done here. There's a lot of different things that it's doing here. Well, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go in, I'm going to upload this image one more time, and I'm going to shoot for the moon and just do that last prompt there about you are an expert in counting. Let's just see if we can get this answer. So I will go ahead and process that. And again, I'm looking for 8. Well, I thought I was heading down the right road there. But again, it's kind of interesting to actually see it go in and process. Again, my hope was for the correct answer here. Right? So, I would obviously have to go in and continue to massage my prompt and modify it until we actually get the correct answer. So counting is an issue. It can identify the items. It knows there's green apples there. It knows there was 1 red apple. But in regards to the number of items, not so much. So just keep that in mind as you're going through and attempting your prompt. Now, I had another apple image I was going to go ahead and try, but since it failed this one, I'm just going to go ahead and skip and move on to the next example. All right, so in this other example here, we're going to go ahead and just ask it information in the image itself. Okay, so I'm interested in a location. And in this example, this is at an art museum in uptown Charlotte. If you're from Charlotte, you know the difference between uptown and downtown. So I'm going to go and grab this image here. And for this prompt, I'm simply going to say, and this is visual question and answering, where is this statue located? Let's see if somewhere in the model is this picture of the statue and its information. Should be interesting to find out. And honestly, I don't know the artist that created that. I'll have to double check and see if that's correct. Nikki de Saint Fali. I hope that's correct pronunciation. But it doesn't know the specific location. Uh, Maybe I can, coax it a little bit and say this is in um, North Carolina, and let's see if it has the information. So sometimes, depending upon the location and the item that's in the image, it can immediately go ahead and figure out the location. So it's kind of interesting when you play around with the field of view and what buildings or what architecture is in that image as far as it coming back. And it's just off. So yeah, this statue is in Charlotte, but it didn't recognize it. So swing and a miss there. But still, it's interesting that it did come up with the artist information. But yeah, didn't get the location. Okay, so we're going to continue on. I have one more example. This one is really cool. As I mentioned before, you can upload multiple images in ChatGPT for GPT-4 Vision. And so for this last one, I'm going to have some fun with this. I'm going to upload an image of a lunch, a Mexican lunch on a table. And I'm going to also upload an image of the menu. And then I'm going to ask ChatGPT to evaluate or look at the menu, look at the food that's on the table, and approximate the price for it. Like, tell me the dish and how much it costs. Now, there's one little fun caveat to this. For lunch, chips and salsa are free. Okay, so keep that in mind as we run through this exercise. So now I'm going to go up and we're going to go into this example. I'm simply holding down the Shift key to select multiple images to upload at one time. Again, I have my menu and I have my Mexican dish here. Let me go ahead and open that up. And for this prompt, I'm going to ask ChatGPT, how much will my meal cost based on this menu and the picture of my meal on the table? Let's see what it does. All right. So it is doing the work. It can see the skillet with the chicken fajitas, the side of rice, dipping sauce, salsa, tortilla chips. Now it's going to go ahead and look at the menu. And you see there's a discrepancy as far as the fajita enchilada with soft corn tortillas. So it's the closest item on the menu. It's not an enchilada. It's doing all kinds of analysis as far as the rice. The chips and salsa are complimentary. $8.99. So after a lot of thinking about the menu and the text on the menu, the food on the table, the discrepancy, it made some assumptions and it still came back with $8.99 on the menu for the fajita enchilada. Again, it's really fascinating here. So there it is, fajita enchilada, $8.99. And of course, it says here, served with complimentary chips, salsa, and tortillas, dine in only. Okay. Oh, that's excellent. Well, hopefully, this has given you some insight and some background as far as how GPT-4 Vision functions. There's a lot more. This is only scraping the surface of what is possible with GPT-4 Vision. And hopefully you'll jump in and put some images up there that are secure. Again, no corporate IP here. That will allow you to see how you can modify your workflows and some additional opportunities to leverage GPT-4 Vision. I just want to thank everyone for joining me here. Again, you can check me out at joshcavalier.ai or joshcavalier.com. And again, thank you so much for taking time and spending it with me. And I will see you in the next episode. Take care.